Hello and welcome back. It is week 15 here on Out on That Line. I am Geoff, along with my co-host Alex. Alex, how we doing this week?
Geoff, I'm like a tree in the wind, baby. I'm just happy to be included.
So this week we have an album that we were actually both, maybe surprising to the audience, both pretty excited about. The Miley Cyrus album, Plastic Hearts.
Yeah.
So that we'll get to that one a little later on. But first, we were a little blindsided here with a man that's supposed to be a stalwart of rock and roll, someone that you should be able to look up to. Eric Clapton throwing his hat in the ring with Van Morrison with this anti-lockdown bullshit. People came out with an article, I'm sure tons of places had the story about it, where he basically, they're talking about the UK lockdowns and how they're against that and basically government overreach, blah, 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 all that kind of bullshit you hear QAnon people talk about all over the place if that's the sort of thing you look for. I've always thought Eric Clapton was kind of a piece of shit. I think you are a more recent, came around to that a little more recently. But this whole thing is just so stupid how people of this prominence are deciding to use their celebrity status for this purpose.
Well, and where to begin? First of all, you have the fact that they are using this song and these performances that they've put on. They're couching it all under the idea of save live music. There are a lot of musicians out there whose bottom line has been impacted by these restrictions during the pandemic, which is absolutely true. But these two guys have more money than fucking Midas, so, what consequence is it to them? They're being greedy and using altruism as a cover because this time, not in arenas and not on the road, is lost revenue for these two fuckers. I mean, at least Eric Clapton, because this then goes into my next point. The man is a huge racist.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I have an article pulled up with his racist rant. And I'm not going to go through and say it because I don't want to give, but just a little sample of it. He said, Jamaicans don't belong here. We don't want them here. This is England. This is a white country. We don't want any black blanks and blanks living here. And this was back in like 76 or something like that. So apparently he was all hopped up on drugs and blah, blah, blah. And I don't give a shit. It's
I
just
bet he was. That doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it was, I have never thought his music was like super, super awesome. As a guitar player, it's like you look at someone like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Prince and Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen and all these people that are like luminaries of the instrument. And to even think that Eric Clapton would belong in a conversation with them is just ludicrous to me in the first place. I think it was hopefully friend of the pod. I don't know if Troy listens, but former lead singer of the band I was in Vermont. I think it was a status that he posted on Facebook where he said, when all this came out, that Eric Clapton, was the least interesting member of every band he was ever part of. And it's true. I mean, you think of Cream and it was Ginger Baker was a fucking wild man on the drums. You think of, when he did the stuff with, why can't I think of his name from Pavement? Is it Pavement? I don't know. Steve something, the guy that did Higher Love.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I can't remember.
Steve Winwood.
Yes, Steve Winwood. Yes, thank you for the assist there.
Yes.
That was never going to come to my brain. And then, he did his solo stuff, which, make plenty of money on your son's death. That's fucking weird, buddy. And that, it's just, then he does the Crossroads Guitar Festival where he just brings in a bunch of guitar players that should have been more famous than him because they're all better than he is. So in no part of Eric Clapton's career did he ever deserve to be on the pedestal that people put him on? And I felt this way for a long time. I'm glad I finally had a reason to say it.
Preach, Geoff. He's the fucking Thomas Edison of Hall of Fame guitarists, basically. Tesla infinitely smarter and better than Edison. Edison just better at self-promotion and being an underhanded piece of shit.
Yeah. So I knew when he did this, like I've never had a great opinion of Eric Clapton. So when he said all this shit, I was like, okay, well, makes sense that he also has a shitty opinion about this because he's got a shitty opinion about just about everything else. But I was really disappointed when Van Morrison started coming out with this because I'm just running through like Into the Mystic, Domino, Brown Eyed Girl, like all of these, like Dark Side of the Road. I mean, all of these classic songs that I just go way out of my way to listen to quite often. And then to hear that he came out with a three songs about anti-lockdown. First one called No More Lockdown. Like,
subtle.
fucking, yeah, subtle. Hit it right on the nose there, buddy. Good work. Born to Be Free. And As I Walked Out.
Oh
Garbage.
my God. He's so fucking dramatic. He's like a high
Yeah.
school girl. He is unreal.
Yeah. And, I think the last good thing he ever did was the version of Comfortably Numb that they did for The Departed.
Yeah.
And just, I hope David Gilmour is like real upset about being involved with that, because Van Morrison has shown himself to be an all-time piece of shit. I mean, the lyrics are terrible, but it's all about like government overreach, like literally saying, like, the government said everyone should stay home, and they spread fear and loathing and no hope for the future. And then if that's not on the nose enough for you, just wait. Well, on the government website from the 21st March 2020, it said COVID-19 was no longer high risk. Then 2 days later, they put us under lockdown. Then why are we not being told the truth? Those are the actual lyrics from the song.
These are just tweets that he set to music, I would have to assume.
Yeah. I mean, this is something, maybe someone like Sean Hannity was like, hey, Van, I wrote these lyrics for you. Yeah. You should sing them. And Van was like, these are fucking brilliant, dude.
Thanks for coming to my sleepover, Van. I hope you like the song that I wrote.
Yeah. And I mean, it's tough because it's like, I really, really loved Van Morrison. Like, really loved that music. I mean, some of the best songs ever, I think. Just, maybe not like top 10 songs, but like really good classic songs that hit the emotions that you need them to at the right time, But to have him do this is just so, so disappointing.
It is disappointing. And I guess it's like, I think it's kind of a thing you have to pick and choose with certain people, right? It's a lot harder to justify continuing to support, if the allegations are true, a Michael Jackson, or knowing what we know that the allegations are true, an R. Kelly. I used to like R. Kelly's music and Michael Jackson's music, and it's one of those things where you're like, okay, so am I going to stop eating at Chick-fil-A because they donated to anti-gay charities? If I do that, do I have to do it everywhere? But you do have to kind of take a stand when it's something totally fucking reprehensible, like sexual assault and child molestation.
Yep.
Sorry that we're talking about this on the Fun Music Podcast. But my point is, like, I think you can still listen to Van Morrison's music. I mean, Astral Weeks is a top 3 album of all time. Like, it's ridiculously good. He's ridiculously talented. And, like, I think you can still enjoy the ones you enjoy. You don't have to, like, Please Take Me Out of Lockdown or I'll Scream or whatever the fuck he calls this.
Yeah. And the man is 75 years old.
Yeah.
And it's like, and nobody's buying Van Morrison albums anymore. So, like, touring is how he makes his money. And I'm going to go ahead and guess that drunk asshole has not been great with his money throughout his career. So I'm thinking there's some very selfish motives for this. And he's like, well, there's a sect of people that I think are really going to dig into these songs and be right there with me. So he's probably making a bunch of money from selling these songs right now. And it's garbage.
Oh, I'm sure some like old Van Morrison boomer extravaganza is taking place on the message boards of the internet right now. Like, people can hardly contain themselves. Van sees us. This will be the song of our liberation when we take back Arby's from our oppressors.
I just thought of a nice little thing here when you were talking about Chick-fil-A and not buying it anymore because they donate to the anti-gay charities. Hobby Lobby, if you guys aren't aware, another one of those that you should avoid shopping at. But Eric Clapton is the Chick-fil-A of guitarists. Just completely overrated.
Wow, he got Chick-fil-A, he got Edison. This guy, I mean, if you need anything more, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what it'll take to convince you.
Yeah, I mean, I already didn't have, like, the best opinion of British people, so Eric Clapton coming out and doing this is just not helping the cause.
You're on thin fucking ice, you limey pricks.
Yeah, and I just watched The Crown as well. Yeah, didn't help my opinion there either. Yeah, that whole having a monarchy shit is weird. No wonder Eric Clapton turned out like he did.
It's for the birds. It's not for me.
Yeah, for the goddamn birds. Well, I mean, I don't want to keep giving them any shine. I feel like the more we mention their name, the more people are going to go look up these songs. And I'm telling you, don't. I listened to the songs because I felt like I had to, and for the good of the podcast. Alex did not, and I didn't tell him. I specifically did not tell you to listen to the songs because I was like, there's no need. There's no reason for two of us to have to suffer this fate.
Well, and as I like to say, I did a stupid smart thing, which was didn't think about listening to the song. It didn't even occur to me one time. And it turned out to work in my favor because you said they were pretty fucking awful. So thank you for taking that one for both of us.
Yeah, and I gave him 3 streams. 3.
It's all right. That's all right. It was in the name of science.
God, you better spend those pennies wisely, man. Fucking dickhead. All right, well, what do you say we get into something that I think we're a little more upbeat about here? It's this Miley Cyrus album, Plastic Hearts. Just released pretty recently. Like I said, we were kind of looking forward to this one because she is, for whatever else you may want to call her, she is a fascinating artist. Very talented. That's undeniable. But just always goes left when everybody thinks she should go right. And so far, it seems to work out for her.
And that's what this album is about, in essence, is everybody's been... And it's an old theme that she's carried over a bunch of times, but it remains evergreen because anytime she tries to do some kind of reinvention, everybody's got a lot to say. There's people that want to see her fail. There's people that would throw themselves in front of a speeding bus for her. So she's a very polarizing person, but like you said, undeniably talented. So she's as well equipped as anyone to go about and try these different experiments. And we've seen that country is not for her. Rap is definitely not for her. I mean, that whole debacle, she could not speak intelligently about the genre or any of the social aspects around it. It was just, then you have no fucking business farting around in R&B and hip hop. Goodbye. Next experiment. And good for her for experimenting, because my whole thesis of this album is people think they know Miley Cyrus. And because that's such a pervasive sentiment, Miley Cyrus doesn't really know who Miley Cyrus is, so she keeps trying it on. And I think this is the one where she found her sound.
Yes.
Yeah. I think she found something she's real fucking good at.
Yeah, and I think it's because it's a mix between that kind of disco pop music that she's been known for, the Party in the USA kind of stuff. There's definitely some heavier kind of rock in here. The first song, I got very Queens of the Stone Age kind of vibes when I was listening to it. And it's just that it seems whatever is kind of a little bit of punk in there as well. It's it seems like the genres of music that you would think would fit her, aesthetically, and kind of the sentiments behind them. That's what she kind of puts on in this album, and she melds them all very well. I think throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, she successfully fucks around with new wave and synth wave and pop and punk and electronic music. She dabbles a lot on this album. And it's interesting because you kind of have to look at the whole thing from the lens of what this is, which is first and foremost a pop album. When we say she dabbles with new wave, she dabbles with synth, she is adding those things to the structure of a pop album and a pop persona. And you don't want to alienate the people that got you there. So in using a pop formula, you're always going to be beholden to certain conventions. It's part of why pop is a great genre, because it when some song is in the pocket and it's hitting all the fucking beats, there's a reason you love it. It is designed for you to love it, and it's a hit. And if you try to fuck around too much with the established formula, then maybe you're taking a trip too far out there for the mainstream people that kind of, brought you to the dance. Not that you owe them anything, but if you look at music like a business, producers are going to sit Miley Cyrus down and be like, don't forget who we're here to serve. So these can't be too fucking weird. You can't get super graphic. We'll give you 1 or 2 fucks on the album, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to look at this whole thing in the lens of the structure of pop songs, because sometimes it makes one of the songs in this album work, and other times it completely fucking ruins what could have been a killer song if she had been allowed to play around with it a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a couple songs on here where I felt like it was just very much, they found a formula and they were like, we're going to follow this formula. It's going to be a big hit if we do exactly these things, and I think she's at her best when you're kind of not sure what she's going to do. When that train is just about to go off the rails, I think is right when Miley Cyrus is at her best. When I think that's when she's the most like herself, when she feels, because throughout the whole album too, you kind of find that she's like, I don't like being put in a box. She's a people pleaser, so that's where she runs into a lot of her trouble, it sounds like. Where because she doesn't want to disappoint people. She wants to make people happy because she does care about them. You know, she's not a bad person. She's
No, not at
selfish. But I think she's very well aware of like, she's not one to be tied down. So when people expect that of her, she wants to please them. So she might play that part, but it's not her, you know? And I think she explores that quite a bit in the album. And I think it's really the first time, and I haven't really listened to full albums by her before, but I've heard enough to know that it's like, I felt like she was very influenced by producers in the studio saying, you need to do it this way. You need to sing it this way. You have the voice in this register, so you have to put that here, and it feels like this is the album where she finally was like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And you can really hear it in a lot of the songs, and it feels more authentic that way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, because she was a child star. I mean, from the first time she was in the entertainment industry, she had adults and producers and people in power telling her where to stand and you smile here, Miley, hit the laugh line and smile. And I'm not saying they were creepy or weird or mean to her.
Yeah.
But your every move is dictated for you, and you're a child. You're not allowed to have an opinion on the set of a movie. You are there to fulfill a function, and that is to sell T-shirts and sneakers that light up and notebooks and shit. So she's been being told what to do her entire fucking life with intense scrutiny. And then when all other girls are coming of age and exploring, I want to be seen as a woman and not a girl, she has to do that publicly. And we fucking lambaste her for it. Yeah. Like she's not doing the only thing she could do, which is try to while out and let us deal with it, because it's her fucking life and she's a kid doing what we all did.
Yep.
So it's a tough position to be in. On top of all of that, you're interested in being an artist, not a fucking commodity. So you have to forever fight that battle. And it's exactly what you said. I want to make people happy, but the dichotomy is I don't like being put in a box, and I have to go into a box to please you people, and it's still not enough for you. So I think now I'm going to start doing my own thing, and you're all going to have to deal with it.
And I think this album might be, and I mean, she's probably one of the biggest pop stars in the world anyway, but this kind of album might be the one where it's like labels probably won't be able to say shit to her anymore, because it's like this one where she was able to kind of do what she wanted to do. I would think, this one probably is going to be her most successful one, and it's just kind of proof where it backs up what she's always felt like is I know how to make decisions for myself. You might not always think they're great, and they might not actually always be great, but she does tend to always come out on top, with whatever decision she's making. Because how many times has the press tried to just absolutely beat her down and just be absolutely ruthless with her, just tell her she's a bad person, that she doesn't, when her marriage was falling apart, everybody was just like, oh, well, it must be things that she did. It's her problem. She caused it. When it's whatever Hemsworth brother it was that she was married to is just well, maybe he was the problem. Maybe he couldn't handle the fact that she was that successful. Nobody looked at it from that side,
right?
And gave her the credit for why it might be falling apart. And nobody even said it was both ways. It seemed like everything you read was that it was her fault that it was all falling apart. And it just seems like this album is kind of like a fuck you to all those people. I'm going to do it my way, the Miley way. And here it is. And it's good.
Yeah. And it's still introspective. And, she doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. So she kind of writes like it. And as a result, makes some mistakes, I think, particularly in some of the people she chooses to collaborate with on certain things. Mm-hmm. But she was willing to just go out there and roll the dice and do shit she wanted to do. And that's what matters. Instead of having a gimmick put on her, like she's in the WWF, they're like, you're the wrestling hockey goalie. On Miley's country, Miley's rap, things I know she was interested in, but they were probably an easy sell from the fucking higher ups to make it happen, and they were just spectacular failures. She's made some crap, but she's also made some of the best pop music of our generation, because she's 28, I'm 31, you're 33.
Yeah.
So we're all in this together, you, me, and Miley. So I mean, she's gotta get the benefit of the doubt from you. You gotta listen to this album and you gotta hear what she has to say. It's really interesting.
Yes. And with that, why don't we just get started?
Let's do it.
The first song is WTF Do I Know? So what the fuck do I know? And it's a really, it starts right out. It's a good song. I mean, it's very much gives me, like I mentioned before, a kind of Queens of the Stone Age vibe, especially more recent Queens of the Stone Age. I don't know if people have listened to the Villains album, but that, great album, but it's got a very driving beat kind of through the whole album, and this song has that. And the guitar solo, like I thought it was that she had collaborated with Josh Homme, that he was on this song, because it sounded so much like that. So if it's not influenced by that, then I don't know what else they might have been listening to that they came up with it. But overall, just I thought was a really good opener for this album.
It's a good opener, and like I definitely got shades of this being about it's kind of addressing the elephant in the room, which is the Liam Hemsworth divorce. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the lyrics are like lend themselves to that. It's this idea of things didn't work out between us, and it's again reasserting these themes of people think they know Miley Cyrus, and they probably think the whole dissolution of my marriage was my fault because it's crazy Miley. But there's a side you're not hearing. I'm going to tell it without outright fucking trashing the guy, but let you know that we were not meant to be, and it was as simple as that. It's not like I went crazy because people said she like had psychosis and became bisexual. I was like, well, there's a nuanced understanding of human sexuality.
It sounded like to me that perhaps she always was, and that was something he was not ready to accept. And think was okay. Yeah. See,
she
that's
flat
the
out
thing
says. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with how the media kind of presented her, was like, oh, well, it can't possibly be this perfect little Hemsworth boy that was the problem.
Yeah.
It had to be this little wild child, so she did. I mean, I don't think Miley allowed them to paint her with that brush, but it's like, that's the brush she got painted with. And that was always the lens with which she was viewed through, when people were talking about her, when it came to this relationship that fell apart. And it's like, I think she even went back to try to make it work again. And it's just like, there's that people pleaser part of her where it's like, deep down, she's probably a very, not even deep down, like she's probably just a great person in general, doesn't want to hurt anybody, and thought it was probably best for her image, for her life, to try to make that work. And then she found out, that she probably made the right decision in the first place.
She flat out addresses it in a later song, Never Be Me, where she's talking about if you want someone stable and faithful, Miley's got to get her fuck on, and Miley likes girls too. So, you can't cut that part off of her. So if you're going to be with her, you got to understand like what her needs are. And it sounds like this guy couldn't. But who is the mainstream going to believe? Gail from District 12 or the girl that dry humped Beetlejuice at the VMAs? So, you know what I mean? Like,
yep, that's true.
I don't mean for that to sound like victim blaming, like she's the cause of her own problems. But as like a flamboyant performer who takes these risks and puts herself out there more than this packaged commodity Liam Hemsworth, it's kind of brave of her to hang her ass out there like that, literally and figuratively. And she doesn't get any credit for it. She's crazy Miley. And I have one
hopefully this album changes that.
I hope so, because I have one other quick anecdote related to this. I watched a stand-up, like a mini stand-up special with Dave Chappelle. And he was talking about the reason why he asked Netflix to get Chappelle's show yanked off Netflix.
Yeah.
Because basically when he left the show, Comedy Central fucked him because he got talked into a bad contract that said they didn't have to pay him if he walked. So he did not get rich off of Chappelle's show. And seeing it on Netflix, he's like, that's a slap in the face. I'm asking you to take it off. And Netflix said, yeah, totally. We understand the story. But the whole point of him telling that story was about how the media can totally distort the narrative and distort the person's reputation. They made Dave Chappelle look insane. Comedy Central, in conjunction with the media, spread these rumors that he was smoking crack and he went to Africa and he freaked the fuck out and broke down. A devout Muslim is like drinking all the time and smoking crack. Okay. Yeah. So he walked away because he knew he was being taken advantage of, and they changed the narrative to Dave Chappelle is a crazy crack smoking motherfucker. And to an extent, that's what they do with Miley Cyrus. It's different for a black man and a white woman that came from a showbiz family. Yeah. But it's what this business will do. if you don't take control of your narrative, which Dave Chappelle eventually did in his comeback. I mean, he never, to be honest, lost it. He left before they could take it from him. And Miley Cyrus keeps finding these ways to just stick and move.
Yeah, it's just about how, you know, the public perception can be so shaped by the media, and that you may just get a totally wrong impression of somebody, you know, based on what the magazines are going to tell you about what happened. And it's just nice to see them be able to break out of that and break free of it. It's good. Yeah. The next song, Plastic Hearts, the second one on the album. So this is the title track, obviously, for the album. And this one also very good, you know, and I think this one was kind of, you know, she very much something she would kind of go back to throughout the album. And I think that she's gone through her whole career, you know, too much partying and trying to please other people. And she says in here, you know, I can be whoever you want me to be, you know, and it's just like, she always could. She's like, I can be whatever I want to be successful, but she's very clear. She's like, I'm not going to be happy doing things that way. And it just seems, you know, with the previous song and this one, it seems like, you know, very much the same kind of sense I would get from The Weeknd on the After Hours album is the same sense I was getting from Miley Cyrus throughout this album, where she's like, I know I probably party too much. I know I probably pushed it a little too far, but God damn it, I'm having fun, and I'm probably going to keep doing it.
Yeah, this is the only thing that keeps me sane, so fuck off. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I got work to do.
She also says, like, plastic hearts are bleeding. You know, I like that, where she,
too.
You know, like a bleeding heart kind of thing. Obviously, that trope, like California is full of, you know, it's supposed to be this very liberal, you know, state, but she's probably spent enough time there to know that it's a very specific form of liberalism for the most part. You know, so saying plastic hearts are bleeding, so saying that like their hearts are actually fake. They may like profess that they really care about these things and that they really want social justice and all these things, but they're fake. They're plastic.
Yeah, basically that. I got the same thing where I'm like, fake ass LA people and their fucking problems. That's what this song is kind of alluding to. And she's one of them, and she never says she's not. Like, plastic hearts are bleeding, like, keep me up all night. You can look at that like, my pain keeps me up all night, or you can look at it tongue in cheek, like very bitterly, like, oh yeah, it'll keep me up all night thinking about all you poor pretty people in LA and all your existential suffering.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is I don't think she makes a definitive statement either way. You know what I mean? She's just kind of airing it all out on this album, but on this song in particular.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really the, you know, and I felt like, you know, lyrically, I'd never really bothered to kind of look at what she sings. You know what I mean? Like, didn't really ever read the lyrics or anything like that. But these first two songs, was, you know, you think of a pop song, and a lot of times they're not going to make much sense. They're just going to say the words they need to say to kind of fit together like a puzzle piece to give you the most appeal. And while the lyrics are very good and set up to be like very much, you know, kind of formulaic, I suppose, but the things she's saying, you know, is definitely a little deeper than a lot of pop music is willing to get into, I think.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I for this song in particular is one that I love for the way that it's structured, like a straight up pop song.
Mm-hmm.
And I like for the way that it uses these lyrics cleverly, and it isn't just like you talk about any Miley Cyrus lyrics that you actually know, like you never really look them up. That's because the ones that I know right off the top of my head are da 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 dee, we dance in Mali, like whatever. And I didn't even get it completely right. Like you just like through sheer osmosis, like an alien blob in a lab, and you just leave the radio on and it learns how to mimic those sounds. Like that was my retention of Miley Cyrus lyrics in the past. But this is like, she found a way to marry like interesting, catchy, mainstream enough lyrics with a pop sound, and then her fucking voice takes it completely over the top. She has settled into such an awesome fucking lane with her voice. She sounds like she is like Ann Wilson in her fucking prime.
Yeah.
Like Debbie
There's
Harry
nobody else that really
prime.
sounds like her.
Yeah, that raspy alto fucking, oh my God.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, she definitely can reach.
Notes.
She can reach like way, way down, way further down than most other female singers are going to be able to go. And she can still, like, her belt. You know, I don't know if she can hit the same high notes like Mariah Carey could or anything like that. But she can seriously belt, like when she decides she wants to. And she just got that little touch of the rasp on there. Just that little bit of huskiness in the voice is just like, sounds like almost she smoked, 3 packs of cigarettes the night before, and she just like woke up and rolled to the studio to record it. It's just perfect. It's like the perfect amount. She really knows how to control her voice, and it seems like she just nails exactly what it needs to be at every point on this album.
Yeah, there's just kind of like a real like sweetness to the voice, but like you kind of dunked it in goop and ran it through a little bit of gravel. It's just got that nice, just right on the cusp, that scream that really does make her sound like she's like this sounds like a weird compliment, but it makes her sound like a 45-year-old woman. It makes her voice sound super lived in and just super worldly. She just sings so authoritatively on this album. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Fucking great.
I feel like her voice to me is as explosive as like Laura Jane Grace's voice is, where it's just like you all of a sudden you be like, whoa, where did that come from? She gave me that same sense a few different times on the album. And it's definitely, I always knew she was a great singer. Like that was never in question. But just the way that I feel like has finally decided to just sing it how she wants to and not worry and just realize that is plenty good enough.
It doesn't have to be a country sound. It doesn't have to be an R&B sound. It has to be whatever I need it to be to accomplish this fucking song that's right in front of me. And you will enjoy everything that comes next.
Yes. Except for the next song, mostly.
Touché.
Yes. Sorry about that, folks. We really duped you there. I think this one, like, again, this was the one where I was like, she can really, really sing. And there's a couple clever little lines like, can't fly to angels like you can't fly down here with me. It's just a kind of a clever way of saying like, I'm down here in the gutter. Like you don't belong down here with me. It's a very much a tried and true trope that you hear about in music all the time. A little more hurt won't kill you. When she's talking about possibly like, oh, well, let's try it one more time, but knowing that they're not right for each other. The themes are good, but it's just nothing about the song really got me that excited.
Let's just say a lot of like sturdy backwoods country gals are going to have a good cry to this one out in their Jeep pickup. This is just like tailor-made for the pity party, and it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not a bad song, but it's definitely like, because you see it again. I hate to kind of like rely on the sample from the message boards, but like you go on Genius and you look at some of the comments other people have, not because you're looking for their interpretation, because they're not capable of giving it. All they can do is go, "Yas, queen." You're like, oh, I think this person enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Interesting. But you look at like what people say, and their interpretation of it was exactly that. Was basically just like, oh, this is going to be good future have a cry music, without like absorbing any of Miley Cyrus's message, which is like, I made someone fall in love with me and then realized I didn't want to be in love with them, like committed. And I knew what an asshole I was being, and I had to let this person down. So fuck me. It's very confessional.
Yeah. And it's, and I think it's going to slide right in after the Taylor Swift folklore album for a lot of people. The folks that are looking at this one is like very deep emotional song, that they're also probably looking at Taylor Swift as very deep emotional lyrics as well.
She sees right through my soul.
She speaks right to me. It's just beautiful. I feel seen. The next song, though, brought it right back for me. Prisoner. This is the one that she did with British artist Dua Lipa. Good on you, Dua Lipa, for redeeming the UK a little bit after Van Morrison and Eric Clapton decided to shit all over it. But this song is just your classic pop song. Like if you want to hear Miley Cyrus do her pop songs like she did with, what's that, Mountain, Always Gonna Be Another Mountain to Climb or whatever, the Dancing on Molly song, like those, if you want to hear like a classic good pop song, that's this one here, and it is a bop.
Yeah, I mean, Dua Lipa doesn't have the most dynamic, memorable voice in the world, sings with a lot of like energy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And her songs are all like fun as fuck to listen to. I mean, again, I go to Dylan's Masters of War, probably not. But don't tell me you're not going to put it on and dance around and have a good time. So she was like a great match for this one because I think hearing all the crazy shit Miley Cyrus is doing, probably not necessarily, this is not the most vocally impressive Miley is on the album, but I think just hearing her raw power, you go, I have to step it up a little bit, because this is like some of the best I've heard Dua Lipa do, where she doesn't sound like she's kind of bored.
Yeah.
She sounded like, okay, I came to play in this one. So it's a classic bop.
Yeah, I think Dua Lipa vibes more than she ever sings.
Yeah, yes.
I think is the, And
Totally.
like, I don't know if I've heard a Dua Lipa song that I didn't like. I also don't know that I've gone out of my way to listen to any. But I hear them on TikTok all the time when Fiance the Pod is watching through some TikToks, every few days or so. But it's, this one's just a jam. Like, it's about being in a abusive relationship that you can't get out of. Like, the title didn't give that away. I don't know what would. Yeah. But it's just a really good song. Like, the lyrics are, not too complicated or anything. Like, you're never, you're not going to win. They're not going to win a Pulitzer or anything like that for any sort of depth of research they've done for them. But certainly gets the message across. And it's just, it delivers exactly what I think they were trying to deliver, which was, we are two of the biggest pop stars in the world right now. Like, let's give the people what they want.
Come at us. Yeah, it's great. It's a great fucking song. Dig it.
Yeah.
I'm pro Dua Lipa.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is a pro Dua Lipa podcast. Yeah. For sure.
We're pro Lipa.
Yeah. Next song, Give Me What I Want. We don't need to spend a whole lot of time on this one either.
Jeff, why don't you give me what I want and make it so that we skip this song?
Okay, perfect. Sounds a lot like Closer, and we're moving on. Yeah. Same subject matter, too. Right into Night Crawling. This is one she did with Billy Idol, and I believe you have some things to say about this one.
There are a lot of heavy hitter guests on this album, and Billy Idol comes in to lend some credibility on this one, Night Crawling. It borrows heavily from You Spin Me Right Round, and so it's a classic Billy Idol kind of song, and you listen to her talk about it, and it's clear that she's a Billy Idol fan from way back. Mm-hmm. But god damn it, the title Night Crawling is so fucking cringe. I can't get over it. It prevents me from enjoying an otherwise completely fine song, because it is basically You Spin Me Right Round. But again, vocally, everybody's doing a great job. Billy Idol's doing the Billy Idol thing. But it's just Night Crawling. I'm like, you sound like Frank Reynolds and Charlie on Always Sunny when they play Night Crawlers. I don't like this. It sounds really stupid coming out of Billy Idol's mouth. And that's when, like, it hits you. The song is like, he's doing a favor for his niece. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, he sounds like a old man saying Night Crawling. And the lyrics are just night crawling, sky falling, the devil's calling. I'm like, no. The lyrics on Night Crawling are fucked. You could have called this song Hot Dog Shit and kept all the music and instrumentation about it the same, and I would not be calling this a bad song. But the Night Crawling concept is piss.
See, I didn't make the It's Always Sunny connection. I went with the Jake Gyllenhaal movie, Nightcrawler.
Oh, baby.
Which is a super creepy movie. So, like, that's when I had that in my head, I was like, well, this is really strange. Like, this is a really strange song. But we did get a little bit of that Billy Idol Rebel Yell in there, which I'm for the few songs that I know by Billy Idol, I love those songs. White Wedding, Rebel Yell. I mean, those are just two great. Moni Moni, his cover of that is the bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just that, he got that good little, like, wow. That was key for me.
He saved up. Right home. He saved up all year for that one.
Yeah, he had to go back to his vocal coach after that and be like, "Well, we got to go down another key."
We got it. But like, that's the thing is, like, you listen to this fucking song and this whole idea of night crawling, which is like, ooh, we get up to all the fun, sinister, seedy shit after midnight, and it's like, no, Billy Idol has to go to bed at 10 o'clock. Yeah. Or he wakes up with swollen glands and sore feet.
Shredded wheat with his warm glass of milk, and you need to get him to sleep.
Don't let him fall asleep in front of the TV again, goddammit. So, like, I don't buy for a second that he and Miley Cyrus are out partying, getting up to all kinds of strange in LA in the middle of the night. It's just like it's corny as fuck. It just big misfire for me on Night Crawling.
Yeah, and I think they wanted it to sound like it was, they wanted you to believe that she was doing this song with like 80s Billy Idol, like back when he may have been getting involved with that. But I also don't know if he ever really was like, he dressed like a badass and like sang like a badass, but I think he was probably like about as much of a badass as like Peter Frampton. It's like they're very, were very talented for what they were doing, but I don't see that he was living like this real big rock star lifestyle. And Billy, if you listen to the podcast, you can go ahead and correct me. We'd love to have you on. But yeah, this song did not hit for me.
Sorry guys, you tried, but your best was not good enough. Nightcrawling is grade A dog poop, and that is an official dog poop rating out on that line. You can take that to the fucking bank.
Yes. Alex, why don't you bring us into the next one?
Midnight Sky?
Yes.
So this was a single that was off this and Prisoner, Dua Lipa, I think, are the two singles that came off it so far.
Yeah.
I think this one is the most commercial song on the entire album, and for that reason, probably the least interesting, but that doesn't make it bad. I had to listen to it a couple times. There's a really funky fucking groove in this song, and you just kind of get lost in it. And it would be a killer weekend song. Like, I imagine him doing this and like making a couple touches on it. It's got those dreamy, like we talk about how Nightcrawling sounds like Grandpa's Halloween party. Like, you know what I mean? Sorry, I popped myself with that one. This sounds way more like late night cocaine party at the studio after, the VMAs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like
this one rings much truer to that. And in fact, the subject matter is about like doing blow late at night, basically, and like partying. It's the lyrics are nothing mind blowing, but it's just like we talk about when fucking pop music can just kick the fucking field goal, and it couldn't sail more perfectly.
Yep.
It's one of those. It's just a pop song that nails it right down the fucking middle. Yep.
And I actually think she does something pretty clever with the lyrics here that, if you're just listening to it, you're probably not going to realize. But, in the first verse, she says, yeah, it's been a long night and the mirror is telling me to go home. So I think we've all been there, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning at the bar, and you can't even really see yourself in the mirror because it's so blurry. So, the mirror is telling you, it's like, okay, you can't even see straight right now. Time to go. In the second verse, it says she's got her hair pulled back because the sweat's dripping off her face. It's like she's talking about the mirror telling her it's time to go, and then she's talking to her reflection in said mirror, and how it's like it's going from, maybe I should go to like, nope, I'm just going to pull my hair back and keep rolling. I thought it was a cool little kind of, start the story in the first verse, finish it in the second. Like, I thought it was a cool little trick she pulled there.
Yeah, again, it is. It's just like I stick by. It's like one of the least interesting because like you can look at it like good, bad, interesting, different metrics. So it's not the worst song on the album. It is far from it. It is one of the better songs on the album, but it's also like one of the least interesting just because I think sometimes when something has single potential, it doesn't make it the crown jewel of the entire fucking album.
Yeah.
So I think if this is a lot of people's window into the album, like, I don't know how, what I'm, what am I trying to say? Basically,
you shouldn't judge the rest of the album by this one.
Yeah. Cause I've talked to a lot of people that are like, I didn't like the fucking Midnight Sky song. Cause like I got goosed up about the album and I didn't want to give away like, oh, a positive review is coming on the podcast. Yeah. But I just kind of prodded some people and I was like, oh, the new Miley Cyrus, check it out. No, I didn't like Midnight Sky. And I'm like, I don't get that. I mean, like, I understand if you're like, it's more of the same Miley, but like, check out the whole album. So,
yeah. And I think it was like, this one definitely was more like her other pop songs, but I mean, it's just, that's because it's a pop song. Like, I feel like there's only going to be so much differentiation between super popular dance music. You know what I mean? It's like all going to sound kind of similar when it comes down to it to a certain point. But it's still good. And I think when you listen to it in context with the rest of the album, maybe not as strong as the other songs, But you could definitely see why this one, being the popular one, could be like, okay, well, let's get people into the album and then we'll hit them with the heavy stuff. Because she does get pretty heavy and really emotional and honest on a lot of these songs, and certainly I think a lot of those where she does that maybe wouldn't play so well on the radio. I say that when, Wrecking Ball is probably her biggest hit she's ever had. And it's one of the probably most honest songs that she's written. But it's just, I think this one is a good little teaser into it. So it kind of sucks to hear that people might not like it and not give the rest of the album a chance.
Yeah, and I feel like good policy is anytime you hear a single that makes you go, oh, God, if the whole album is like this, I feel like you're obligated to listen to the whole album and give it a shot at vindication. If you listen and you like it, and then you get into this album and you're like, well, this is not the promise that Midnight Sky made, that's kind of a you problem. But if you're like doubting it in any way, you kind of got to buy the ticket, take the ride.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like Miley Cyrus at this point has earned, a bit of credibility when it comes to that. Is like, if you don't like one song, you probably could find something that she does that you're really going to enjoy.
Yeah, like this next song.
Oh yeah, Hi, and it's about exactly, what the title says. It's again, it's her like saying, the second verse is, sometimes I stay up all night because you don't ever talk to me in my dreams. And I think about eventually you're holding me and dancing to the record like a movie scene. So it's all about how she's trying to kind of run away from her emotions and her problems by partying all night, maybe just staying up all night, just doing everything except really confront them and figure them out. And it's just a very good song. It kind of is a slowed down for sure. For the first time on the album, it kind of really strips the music down at least. But it really, really showcases what she can do with her voice. And she is a great singer.
She is working her ass off in this fucking song. And if you could tweak just a couple production things, it would make the difference in night and day. Like this is a great showcase for her voice. And if she leaned into the stomp and holler of it, and just strip back, because I don't know what it is about the production on some of these songs. But
Mark Ronson.
Oh, God, some of the flourishes, dude, stick out like a sore thumb. Like, I'm trying to think. It might be on What the Fuck Do I Know? Those little, like, ting, ting, ting. Those really harsh, fucking fake-sounding piano plinks out of nowhere. Oh, my God, it's like J.J. Abrams and the lens flare. Like, it's horror. It's little things like that just take you out. They're overpowering. So, like, even with minimal production on this song, the production that they do have overpowers what should just be her. I dare say just do an acoustic version of this fucking song.
Yeah.
Just drop it in
like
there.
One acoustic guitar, maybe like a bass drum and a tambourine, just to have like the percussion in there to keep the beat. But like nothing else. But it again, I think it's Mark Ronson. I mean, he's the one that did Uptown Funk with Bruno Mars, which is an absolute fucking jam.
Woo.
But that's the kind of music that Mark Ronson should really be trying to stick with, and he did the song with the guy from Tame Impala, Daffodils, which is a great song as well.
Yeah, it's great.
But this sort of production, I don't think is his strong suit. I think he has built himself up the credibility with which he can go and produce anybody that he wants at this point. But I think this is the kind of thing where it's like, it really deserved to have something very, very stripped down where the focus was strictly just her voice. And I felt like the production took away from that a little bit. Credit to her that her voice still came through so prominently and still really carried the song. But like you were saying, there was just too much done with it.
And it's just let it be this gentle, contemplative, confessional moment. But instead, like, these songs will be cooking on a great idea, and they'll just be like a clown horn out of nowhere. And you're like, why the fuck is he doing this? Like, it's like bad Brian Wilson stuff. Like, I don't like, excuse me for the blasphemy, but sometimes a song like Ding Dang.
You apologize to Tanner right now.
Tanner, I'm sorry. And that's official. But yeah, it's just like I always say, man, putting a hat on a hat. And they did it on this song. But again, it sounds like I'm dragging on the song. It's one of my favorites off the album.
Yeah.
I just could have done less, and I would have been like, this is the standout.
Yeah, well, think about how good it was already. Like the fact that you're saying that it's one of your favorite ones on the album, with as many things wrong with it as we just pointed out, like think about how like stratospherically good that song could have been if it was just pared back a little bit, and I think, and you can see what she does with her voice. If you watch the Backyard Sessions where she does that, Jolene, her version of Jolene is like a knockout version of that song. And when she does True Trans Soul Rebel with Laura Jane Grace from Against Me, it's like you can hear how talented she is. Like she doesn't just have a strong, powerful voice where it's like very studio made that, they get her in the right notes. Like she knows how to use her voice. And I felt like they missed the mark by not letting her just really let it rip on a very stripped down acoustic song.
Showcase it. Minimalist showcase for her voice, because I'm telling you, it is like one of my favorites to listen to going forward. She made every single song on this album, regardless of its qualities, without her voice. She made every single one interesting because of her.
Yeah.
That sound, she found her sound. She found the way to use her voice to do some incredible shit. And she doesn't have to bring it back to the Mariah Carey notes. She doesn't have to try to do that, because the things she does so well.
Yeah.
So it's songs like this where you're like, God damn, she's talented.
Yeah. Yeah. And the next one, Hate Me, I thought was a very good one as well. The chorus, super catchy. Like,
yeah,
super good hook on that one. And just heavy, like the subject matter. When you want to talk about her being honest on this album and very introspective about what's going on, it's about kind of the media, and how they treat her. Like we were talking about before, it's how they painted her with this brush as like, this woman that just doesn't have any respect for herself. She needs to grow up. She does all these things, and she does, she shames her family. All these things that they said about her to paint her to be a terrible person. It's like, I'm pretty sure her parents couldn't love her any more than they do. Like, I'm pretty sure they have like a pretty good family dynamic. And to hear like, so that probably helps her with that. But in the chorus, she says, I wonder what would happen if I die. I hope all of my friends get drunk and high. Would it be too hard to say goodbye? I hope that it's enough to make you cry. Maybe that day you won't hate me. And it's her saying like, what's it going to take for people to give me credit for just trying to grow up and be a person in this world? And I think it's also a good sentiment when she says like, I don't want people to like be sad. Like, I hope all my friends get drunk and high. It's like, how many times have I said at my funeral, I don't really want a funeral. I just want whatever money was going to get put into that, buy the biggest speakers you can and a keg of beer and just play Springsteen's Born to Run as loud as you can, like, and everybody just party, and I think that's that same sentiment, but it's like, also she goes into, I hope that it's enough to make you cry. Maybe that day you won't hate me. And it's saying like, if I die, like, you're going to put all these posts about how sorry you are that I'm gone from the world and all this stuff. Meanwhile, you've all been saying that I'm, the words like calling me a slut and things like that. And it's just, when's it going to be enough for you? It's kind of the question she's asking with this one.
Yeah. Like, if I die, are you going to meme me with like fucking Kobe Bryant and Ruth Bader Ginsburg welcoming me to the gates of heaven? Like the crass shit people do where they like shit on people their entire lives, and then when they're dead, hop on the bandwagon of like, oh, this affected me, give me some kudos. It's genuine with some people, and it's completely not with others, and you know them when you see them. So like, that's kind of who she's talking to here, is these people. It's like, what else do I have to do to convince you that I'm a human being with feelings? Do I have to literally die to mean anything? Because like, this will be a moment in pop culture. It'll be like, I remember where I was when Kennedy died. Although people who remember where Kennedy really were when Kennedy died probably don't listen to Miley Cyrus.
No. Probably barely listen to her dad.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like a super scathing, like the way that she performs the song too is so important. Like, imagine all of these lyrics and the meaning they take on if you give them to Taylor Swift. I'm Taylor Swift, so put upon. You'll all miss me when I'm gone, kind of stuff. And it's like,
yeah,
God damn, we didn't even ask for you in the first place.
You just wrote the best Taylor Swift lyrics that she's ever written in her life.
I mean, right, you're welcome, Taylor. Now
all you forgot was the boy in the teal shirt.
Oh, fuck. I've been the boy in the teal shirt all along. So, like, yeah, just imagine her and her, like, creative approach to this and what she's capable of, as opposed to Miley Cyrus, who just, like, digs in, and I don't want to do an imitation of it because it'll pale in comparison, but just the attack for it is fucking feral. It's like yelling it at someone in an argument. Like you're just, because like this could be also her talking to Liam Hemsworth. Like, what do I have to fucking do? You just imagine her screaming this across the living room at someone with like from her boot heels with every ounce of her being. She means this. So this is like a pretty fucking brutal and like in terms of her introspection, it's brutal, and the aspersions she casts on everyone else. It's just like a total indictment of you, me, and everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a good one. Like this was one of my favorite ones on the album, just because what she was saying, it's like very much she's taking the gloves off. She's like, I'm me, deal with it or not, I don't care. I don't care anymore. And I thought it was a very, good on her for finally doing that.
Yep, I really enjoyed it. It was great.
Yes. The next song she does with Joan Jett, Bad Karma. Now, this one we're not going to talk much about because I think we both decided it was not a solid one for either of us. What I do want to point out, though, is that Miley on this album seems to want to bridge the gap from that kind of 70s and 80s rock and pop to now. She wants to kind of give them their shine for their legacy, like she does with Stevie Nicks with the Edge of 17 sample she uses on the album, with Joan Jett on this song. I feel like Joan Jett, when she was in, what was the Runaways. Joan Jett back then, like they were probably very similar how they lived their lives. Like the Runaways were very young girls that were big rock stars way before they should have been, and did not handle it very well. And I think that Miley sees herself a lot in that. So having people like Joan Jett on her album, I think is her way of saying like, hey, I love this music. This is what I grew up listening to. So I want to make sure this gets the shine because, they've gone through what I'm going through. And I want to it's a lot of kind of female empowerment as well that I think she's trying to bring into it. So while this is kind of a bad song, I do appreciate the efforts made and what she was trying to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just too, for the talent involved, it's too fucking lethargic. Again, the Billy Idol thing. Again, I think all of these appearances are being made in total good faith. We like the way that you're honoring the kind of music we made. We're no longer super relevant. Not to be fucking mean, but Billy Idol, not super fucking relevant. Joan Jett, not super fucking relevant in 2020. So to be brought into like one of the biggest pop star in the world, like they'd be crazy not to. And she's showing that she's a good steward of the music. Yeah. So why the fuck wouldn't you do it and take it seriously? So everyone is trying, but it's just like, Joan Jett, if Billy Idol is your uncle who owes you a favor, then like Joan Jett is maybe the one that came to you and was like, I heard you did a video with your Uncle Billy. How would you like to do one with me? And Miley Cyrus is like, okay, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah. And I mean, who's going to say no to that either? Like whether it was Miley that went to Joan Jett about it or Joan Jett said she was interested in it, like Miley clearly loves rock and roll. I mean, she
put another dime in the jukebox, baby.
Yeah. Like yeah, that's good. I didn't even realize I did that. Like, good on me. Pat myself on the back for that one. Yeah, she clearly has an appreciation for that music, like having the Stevie Nicks, the Edge of 17 sample on here, as well as mixing those two as a remix later on the album, and having the actual Edge of 17 lyrics in there as well. But having Joan Jett on there is like, I think it's just her nod to saying like, this is what I grew up listening to. This is what I've liked. And I want to make sure this music stays relevant for my generation. So I thought the idea behind it was good, but yeah, just not, the execution was wanting.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, great to honor Joan Jett. I like Joan Jett. I'm pro Joan Jett. It just was not a great use of her talents or Miley's talents. And as a result, do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Yeah. And I think the same issues with the next song, Never Be Me. It was, the same thing. She doesn't want to hurt anyone, doesn't want to change who she is. Same things she's kind of talked about several times previously on the album. She wants to be the perfect partner, but struggles with how to do that. I think, it's just, but again, like just didn't land for me. Like just wasn't that exciting of a song.
It's not exciting. It wants to be like a very cosmic fucking Fleetwood Mac tribute almost. Like somewhere in between Fleetwood Mac and Rick Springfield and even, again, The Weeknd, like kind of marrying all these elements. You have like the basis for a good broth here, but the fucking production, once again, is so obvious and so bad and just contradicts the entire fucking song. There is an 80s smooth music song at the core of this that's just like not going to get out because the production is completely inept. It's
and
awful.
You'll never guess.
Sticks out.
You'll never guess who was on the production for this one too.
It wasn't Uncle Mark, was it?
It was old Mark Ronson.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, and it's just, and again, I said, like, I have loved other things that he's done, like
Hell yeah.
that. You know, Uptown Funk and Daffodils are both on this playlist that me and my fiance have, where it's just all dance music, where it's just all like when we clean the house, we put that on, and it's just, you know, just good bops all the way through to keep you going. But again, I think this is just not his forte.
No,
just
not at
really
all.
not his forte.
Nope. Mark Ronson, stay in your lane, because this was you wrote a bad song, Mark.
Yeah,
you produced a bad song.
Yeah, but I think redeemed quickly by Golden G String, the last song,
yeah.
the last official song on the album. The rest are kind of the bonus tracks, live versions of things. But Golden G String is about Der Fuhrer, Donald Trump, and it is a good one.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is like a referendum on 4 years of Trump and how uncivil and totally fucking divided we've become. And we've turned ourselves into a spectacle. A country like the United States can't come together and beat the coronavirus. Like, we're totally fucking inept and as far apart as we ever have been. And she's looking at all of that and going, and you guys have the balls to criticize me and say that I'm crazy? How can someone like me be crazy when this is what the world looks like? You guys are fucked.
Yeah. And she said exactly that in the chorus. And you dare to call me crazy. Have you looked around this place? And it's just about, you know, it's about Donald Trump. It's about old white guys making the decisions for the country when they should have been put out to pasture 30 years ago. You know, and it's the bridge specifically in this song really, really hit for me. So the madman's in the big chair and his heart's an iron vault. He says, if you can't make ends meet, honey, it must be your fault. We all focus on the winners and get blinded by their shine. Maybe caring for each other's just too 1969. And clearly referencing the civil rights movement and saying, like, look, we're in another one of those right now. And honestly, you know, if you're going to be honest about the situation, that movement maybe started then, but there hasn't been an end to it. You know, the goal hasn't been met. And she's saying that. She's saying, like, you know, that trope where it's like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you know, and she referenced that if you can't make ends meet, it must be your fault. You know, it's just, there's so many things in this country that are just absolutely broken beyond repair that the only way to fix anything is just basically a revolution, you know, and it's just something has to change in order to make these things better. And as long as these old white men are in power, you know, for the most part, you know, not going to disparage my man Bernie or my guy Ed Markey, you know, it's, you know, not going to disparage them, but it's like they're very few and far between at that of that age group that are willing to do the things that need to happen to make these changes.
Yeah, and it's she even says in that chorus, you know, the old boys hold out the cards and they're not playing gin. And it's this idea that the deck is stacked against all of us in different ways. Miley Cyrus is a woman, but she is an affluent white woman, so she's, you know, advantaged over most, like different, and we all have these different facets to who and what we are, and quite frankly, to what we owe each other. Like this, when she talks about the spirit of 1969, we should be listening to people's concerns instead of writing something like BLM off because you think it's an attack on you. Why can't you listen to what they have to say and see that that's not the case at all? So it's she does a good job of handling these elements deftly, because people will talk about how she stuck her foot in her mouth in her R&B phase, and she totally did. But she handles it better on this, almost by saying less, but not in a wishy-washy way. You know exactly how she feels.
Yeah.
But she's dressed it up just enough that, again, it doesn't become dated. It's something that, if we're talking about revolution, if we're talking about the next steps forward, you can hold on to something like this and as a reminder, the work is not done.
Yeah.
Because directly being like, Donald Trump's an asshole, don't we all fucking hate him, kind of dates it like a Woody Guthrie type song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, you don't want it to be Alice's Restaurant. You want it to be something that people can hold on to, especially right at the end of the album.
Yeah, and I think she does a good job at making sure that people realize that Donald Trump is a symptom. You know, he's not the disease. You know what I mean? And he's a big part of it for sure. But, you know, it's like, you know, he is the biopsy that opened up and let us find the cancer. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, he is a big part of the problem, but he is not the only problem. It's the people that enabled him to get there that are the problem. And maybe that's us too, with our, you know, being complacent about things, you know, and it's just not realizing the struggles that other folks were going through. And it's good that someone of her stature and someone of her privilege really is using her voice to try to bring some light to this, and not trying to make herself the spokesperson of it, but just saying like, hey, there are people that are the spokespeople of this. Like, listen to them. You know, there's bad shit going on. Like, it needs to be addressed.
Yeah. And I mean, she's talking about herself through the lens of it. So it's as much like, to use my favorite word for the episode, a referendum on like what mistakes has Miley Cyrus made versus the world. And I think it's her basically saying like, yeah, you can sit and shit on me for the choices that I've made, that I can back up, that I can admit were good or bad, but are a part of my life and my story. My story have nothing to fucking do with you. You should take a look at the state of the world around you and do something about that, quite frankly. So it's not Miley Cyrus saying she has the answers or she's the world's biggest philanthropist or anything like that. She's just pointing out like, more of us need to fucking stop and ask ourselves how much we're contributing to how much shit sucks right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as an album closer, and again, there's a couple more songs, but as like the true album closer on this one, I thought this was a very good way to kind of put it to bed.
Hell yeah. It just argues the whole point of the album. Good shit.
Yeah. And so we normally don't, if there's bonus tracks or like live versions of tracks on the album, we normally don't include those. But there's a couple on this album particularly that to ignore would be doing a great disservice to Miley herself, I think. The Edge of Midnight is the mix between Edge of 17 and Midnight Sky. It actually brings in the lyrics from Edge of 17 by Stevie Nicks. And it's just, you know, it's a good song, you know, it's a good little bop. But the next one, Heart of Glass, the cover she does of the Blondie song, really, I think I would love to hear an entire album of just covers from Miley Cyrus, of just ones that she wants to pick and do, because I think it would be one of the most incredible albums you could hear. Like, this song fucks.
Oh my God. Yeah. Backwards and forwards. I mean, the Heart of Glass cover is blistering. It's just so good. It's where you really hear like, this is what her voice is built to do. Mm-hmm. It's got that like, she doesn't hit like the in Heart of Glass, the ooh, oh, which Blondie does like way up in her falsetto, or Debbie Harry does right up in her falsetto. It's nothing like that. It's a way more guttural punk, like what kind of sound. Yeah. But it's completely on pitch. It's fucking beautiful. She just has like the most controlled punk voice ever. And I have to imagine she's doing it healthily. She has access to like the best vocal coaches in the world. So like, I would assume like, yeah, she's a heavy marijuana smoker, is or was, can't remember at this point. So like, you hope to like, it's not like, oh, she smoked a lot and it like lowered her voice, that this is her tapping into technique. If she's making these sounds carefully, I mean, that technique is fucking incredible. It's like the guy who did Beetlejuice on Broadway. Yeah. When they made a Broadway musical out of Beetlejuice. The guy found a way. He worked with a coach who taught him how to fold his vocal cords in such a way that he could do the whole show like this without grinding the fuck out of his cords and going hoarse. So clearly she's figured out something like that, because she can just hit these notes and keep that snarl. It's fucking great. I want to hear her cover a Tom Waits song. Oh, yeah. She would knock the fucking roof off of a goddamn Tom Waits song. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that I'd like to hear her do, but that Hold On would be a song I'd love to hear her do, because she can go plenty low enough to do it as well.
Like, it would not sound inauthentic. It would not sound like too far off from what I think Tom Waits always meant it to be. But yeah, that I wouldn't have even thought of that. But as soon as you said Tom Waits, I'd be like, yeah, hell yeah, it'd be awesome to hear her do that song.
Well, because Golden G String kind of like in the chorus had that structure where it's like I could hear Tom Waits singing it in my head, like
Yeah.
The old boys heard all the cards and they're not playing gin. Like the way that it sounds, the way that it moves. It's, you call me crazy how you look around this place. It's like, you could absolutely slot Tom Waits into that. And it's like, so I think more influences than Get Shine. Like we talk about like, oh, Joan Jett is on the album. Prisoner sounds like Physical by Olivia Newton-John. Billy Idol's on the album. I don't think you get the Tom Waits thing, but I like to think that was a conscious construction now that I think about it, because it's just too on the fucking nose.
Yeah. And ending the album, the live version of her cover of Zombie by the Cranberries. Now, this might be one of the best covers I've ever heard in my life.
Yep.
And I have no problem saying that, because the song is heavy to start with. I mean, I've been listening to the Cranberries since I was little. That No Need to Argue album is all-time classic as far as I'm concerned. But Zombie is probably the best song that I think the Cranberries did. Either that or Linger. You can decide which one you like better of those two, but my God, does she make this song so heavy, and it's perfect. I mean, if Dolores O'Riordan was still alive, R.I.P. to her, great singer. But if she was still alive, I think she would be completely honored by this version.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those great, an instant classic. It was a cover that was extremely faithful to the song, that managed to still completely reinvent it. Like Miley Cyrus, it was truly a tribute more than a cover. So yeah, Dolores O'Riordan, I think, would be incredibly proud.
Yeah.
To see this done with the song. I mean, I love Zombie. You talk about like Zombie or Linger. Zombie all day long and twice on Sundays. Like, that song, it's a heavy fucking song. It's about the Troubles in Ireland. If you know, like, that's not a pleasant topic, but she like made this incredibly powerful song out of it that like Miley Cyrus somehow turns into like Rob Zombie levels of brooding and dark. Like,
and
the original's
heavy.
that heavy.
Like, whoever the band is that she had playing with her, it is heavy. Like, and the original version is heavy as well, but like the live version, whatever they did to get the mix that they did, it's perfect. Every instrument comes through very clear, but it's just so heavy. It's so good. Folks, if you listen to nothing else from this show, if you listen to nothing else that I've told you about good music, listen to this cover, because it really is incredible.
Yeah, you can't say enough good about it. I mean, it reminds me of, like, I'm reading Elvis Costello's book right now, because of course he's got to make it on the podcast. And he was
Stuck that one in on me.
He was talking about listening to Darkness on the Edge of Town, like material from it before it was released, and he was like, it sounded like the guy that was mastering it did it with cotton balls stuffed in his ears, because it was clear Bruce Springsteen was going for a loud fucking sound, like a really heavy sound. And like that's what's going on with this cover of Zombie. It's just like somebody sat there with noise canceling headphones on and did the mix, because it is just heavy. It's loud. It's driving. It's perfectly balanced. I would love to hear an entire live album with that setup. That was fucking great.
Yeah. And they must have done more songs, so hopefully more get released.
I hope so.
Because I think the Blondie, the Heart of Glass, and Zombie, I think they came from the same show. I think they were the iHeartRadio Music Festival or something just before everything locked down, I think was when it happened. But it would be really, really awesome if she did a whole album of covers. And not that we're saying that she has to do it. Like, obviously she just do what she wants, because if she's going to make albums like the one she just made, it's going to be all gravy anyway. But if she is so inclined to do that, she would absolutely rock the socks off of everybody if she decided to do it.
Yep. She has earned my trust and goodwill and faith moving forward. Whatever she does, I hope it's not polka, but I will be there no matter what. Because she like, I wasn't anti Miley Cyrus, but she like truly won me over with this one. This was a really fucking fun album. This is a really good album.
I think it's safe to say we are a pro Miley pod.
you better stream it, or I really painted myself into a corner with that one. Can I rhyme with stream?
Or else.
Stream it or beam it, baby.
Yeah, absolutely stream it. This was a really, I thought, a really good one to listen to. And if you haven't been familiar with Miley Cyrus, or maybe had some preconceived notions about, who she is or what she does, give this album a try. See if it might change your mind, because I think it will.
Yep. Check your notions. You're going to like it.
Yes, absolutely. I think we're running just about at the time limit that we want to be at here. So just going to plug our socials real quick. Find us on Instagram, Out on That Line. Find us on Twitter, Out on That Line 1. The email is going to be outonthatline@gmail.com. All pretty easy to do. Wherever you're listening to this now, we appreciate you there. But just keep sending us those album reviews or the album suggestions. We've got a couple in the pipeline here. They're a little slower to get through, which I think is actually better. Now that we're doing just one album per episode, I kind of like this new format, because I really feel like I can dig more into it. I don't have as much studying to get ready for. I feel like I can bring a little bit more to the table. So just keep those coming. Like I said, we got a couple in the pipeline. Looking forward to getting to those. I'm not gonna say which one it is, because I think it's gonna be a surprise to some folks when we do this next one. But it's gonna be a good one. I'm excited for the future.
I am really, really looking forward to next week and the album we will be covering. I am excited. I am the proverbial cat that caught the canary, baby. I can't wait. You don't want to miss it.
Yes. And we appreciate all the feedback that we get. We see those views on the Instagram TV videos. All those get, Alex pulls those samples and puts them all together to get them out there for you guys to hear the little bits of the episode, to hear what we're going to be talking about. So we're trying to branch out, do some new things. So if there's an avenue that you think we haven't explored yet that we should, go ahead and let us know. Not only just the album suggestions, tell us what you want to hear. If you like the way things are going, obviously we have the final word. It is our podcast after all. But we are doing it for you as well. So just let us know if you're liking where it's going, if there's things you want to hear more of, less of. Either way, we're good with it.
That's right, Geoff. We sure are.
Yes.
We're like the Miley Cyrus of podcasts. We don't like being put in a box, but we are people pleasers.
Yes, absolutely. And if you try to put us in the wrong box, we will hate you forever. So be careful.
Just watch your damn step.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we end it here?
No, not a thing. I'm done.
All right. Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us. Until next time.